Hey everyone, today I am very excited because we have our first recipe request by Mark, who's totally not my former classmate by the way, and he is asking for Chinese pancakes. And oh boy, have you opened Pandora's box. There are so many different varieties of Chinese pancakes. So today I'm making my personal favorite, which is called煎饼果子. The original is from the city of Tianjin, next to Beijing, but you will find this everywhere in China. It's savory, it's fresh, it's delicious, and it has a very unique flavor and texture profile that you don't find a lot. When I lived in Shanghai, this used to be one of my absolute breakfast favorites. I mean, there would be weeks where I would have this every day. So I spent a long time researching and failed many times just to come up with a recipe that is easy and quick to replicate at home. And today I'm sharing it with you, Mark. So, my name is Andong and this is my recipe for煎饼果子, the ultimate savory Chinese breakfast pancake. Just real quick before we get started, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm sharing my favorite Chinese recipes and so much more. Okay, now let's start with煎饼. Now one of the things that makes this dish so classic is the crispy filling. It's called cuibing and it looks like this. And now you're probably wondering, where the do I get cuibing outside of China? Well, fair question. I mean, you could make them from scratch, which is delicious, but a pain in the butt. I'm gonna link to my favorite recipe if you want to try and go the extra mile, but bear with me, there is a workaround and it's a lifesaver. And the secret is frozen wonton wrappers. If you can, try to find the type that says for deep fry. Let them thaw for around 45 minutes and you're good to go. Drop them in some blazing hot oil one by one and fry on both sides. It's only gonna take you seconds. And there you have cuibing, your perfect煎饼crackers. Now I imagine you probably don't want to start deep frying things every time you want a Chinese pancake. Well, good news for you. Just place your crackers in a Ziploc bag and they will keep in your freezer for a really long time. This is actually just the first of 3 tips I have for you to make your煎饼experience almost instant after some initial prep. So stick around to the end of the video to learn the other 2. Okay, now let's work on our batter. So traditional煎饼batter is a mix of different grains that are kind of hard to get outside of China. So I simplified it down to 2 ingredients. And that's regular all-purpose flour and mung bean flour. Unfortunately for煎饼, you can't really skip the mung bean flour. You can try finding it at your local Asian grocery store or you can buy it online. So mix your 2 flours together. Add a pinch of salt and some 5-spice powder. That's optional. Now add some water and a little bit of oil. And mix. And your batter is ready. But before we start frying our pancake, there is one last thing we have to prep, which is the sauce. Again, there are like hundreds of varieties on this. It's like a whole science, but here is my shortcut. As your base, you can use regular hoisin sauce. Add a little bit of fermented bean paste called doubanjiang. An optional but highly recommended addition would be tofu roux, which is fermented tofu, and a little bit of sugar. Now we're all set, so let's go and make some煎饼. Grab the biggest frying pan you got and turn the heat to high. Sorry, mine's a little vintage. Brush with a very thin layer of oil. I'm using a paper towel for that. Okay, now don't wait until your pan is super hot. Instead, spread out a ladle around half a cup of batter while your frying pan is still only slightly warm. Don't worry if it's not perfect, you can even add a little extra batter if needed, but act fast. So traditionally, on the streets, people would use a煎饼spreader. I know it's very satisfying to watch, but it's actually kinda hard to replicate. You kinda have to know what you're doing if you don't want to ruin your煎饼, and I assume you don't have all the professional煎饼making equipment lying around at home anyway. So let's go with the easy method. When you can see the surface firm up, crack an egg on top and spread in a circular motion. Okay, now comes the tricky part, which might require some finesse and practice. By now you should be seeing some air bubbles forming under your煎饼. That means it's close to being cooked through. With a spatula, carefully check and loosen the edges of your pancake. Once loose and ready to turn, sprinkle with some cilantro and spring onions. Now flip. Whew, that was the hard part and now comes the fun. Spread some sauce on your pancake, not too much. Spread sprinkle with some finely chopped Chinese pickles. You can find Chinese pickles at your local Asian supermarket. They come in many different varieties and they are very, very cheap. My favorite for jianbing is mustard root, which is also sometimes called mustard stem. Okay, now add your cuibing crackers and make sure to break them up for flexibility. Fold your pancakes from both sides. If you're having trouble, try rolling it up, that's fine too. Now cut in half, stack, and serve your fragrant, steaming hot jianbing. It's soft and eggy on the outside and savory and crispy on the inside. And you don't get that texture combo every day. Okay, remember I promised you some tips to speed up your jianbing making? So aside from freezing your crispy cuibing, I actually recommend making a little jar of jianbing sauce in advance. It'll keep in the fridge for a couple of weeks. You can also store your batter in the fridge, only for a couple of days though, but that means you could make the batter the night before. But what you can also do is to pre-mix your dry ingredients and to keep them in a jar. All you will have to do is to add some water and a dash of oil. Alright guys, if you like this recipe and if you are hungry for more, make sure to go over to my channel and subscribe. Thanks for watching guys, I'm gonna go and have some jianbing now and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!
Who will love you? Who will love you?